This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter.
This is Robert Fekkes at Nurser330 on Instagram.
And this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. And welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show, each episode. You can find more of our work at ObsessiveViewer.com and more of our podcasts presented by Obsessive Viewer at ObsessiveViewer.com/podcasts. You can also like us on Facebook and join the Facebook group at Facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer. And if you'd like to support what we do here, you can become a patron at Patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer, where at $1 per month you get access to an exclusive RSS feed with content recorded specifically for Patreon, and at the $2 level you get that plus like audio reviews of TV shows and commentary tracks for TV shows. Like right now I'm doing weekly reviews of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I also have a commentary track for the first two episodes of Community, and I've lost my notes. So at the $5 level you get all that plus movie reviews. So I've got Ex Machina, It Chapter 2, Throne of Blood, The Shining, all up there, commentary tracks for this month. And finally at the $10 level you get access to all that plus early access to podcast episodes and previously unreleased content. Again, that's at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. So yeah, I'm your host, the aforementioned Matt Hurt, and with me today is recurring co-host Robert Fekkes. Fekkes, we are here in studio for the podcast. How's it going?
It is going very well. How are you, Matt?
I am doing quite well. I just closed my phone because I looked at the notes that I have for this episode, and it is empty. I just read literally everything that's in my notes for this episode. So yeah, it'll be fun.
That's all right. I don't think I've ever had notes for any of this.
I noticed, and that's going to be on your performance review.
That's fine. You know, that's good.
Yep.
Dock my pay.
Right. Let's not talking about pay. Patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. So yeah, Fekkes, how's it going? How are you doing? What's new and stuff?
I'm doing well. I'm on my days off. Had a productive set of days off. I don't know if you saw, but I put my new soft top on my Jeep the other day.
That. Very nice.
It was an endeavor.
Nice.
I'm not a very hands-on type of guy, but
yeah,
I got through it.
Your post said that it took you like what, 6 hours?
It took me 6 hours.
Jeez.
The instructions said it's a 4-hour job, and it took me 6. And I'll tell you what, when you go through winter, you forget that the sun does things.
Oh, yeah.
And what it does, it scorches my very pasty white skin.
Wow.
Yeah, That is shocking
that you allowed that to happen, just because of how fond you are of like Vegas and Mexico and stuff.
Well, in Vegas and Mexico, I bring sunscreen with me because I know I'm going to be out in the scorching sun.
Right.
I just saw Sunday, and I was like, oh, it's a beautiful day. It'd be a perfect day for this. So I threw on a tank top after the gym, went outside and got to work. And when the sun was setting, I was like, this is going to suck.
Wow. And yeah, I warned you ahead of time today to when you come over to park in the guest spot.
Yes, you did.
Because last night, Tiny was over here to record, and his car got towed from my fucking complex. So if you're listening,
I could have a podcast just on Predatory's towing practices.
Nice. Fekkes the tow hunter.
That's a sounds like a
podcast.
Foot fetish podcast.
Yeah, I'm not hearing you say that you won't start that.
No, I didn't say I wouldn't.
Yeah, okay. I'll start like an actual studio and have you come in and do that. Yeah.
I did. I took the top off yesterday and went on one of my brewery adventures. So it was my first brewery adventure with the top off of my Jeep. It was good times.
Nice.
Yep.
What is you? I mean, this is also a little inside baseball, but here in Indianapolis, what is your favorite place for like brewery?
Oh, Metazoa.
Oh, nice.
Metazoa Brewery on College Avenue near downtown.
Yes.
First of all, it's dog/animal themed, so all their beers are named after some kind of animal. So there's, what's the sloth? There's a sloth one. There's one called Dalmatian. It's a Dunkel If you know beers, it's a kind of like a dark German wheat beer. There's one called Sloth in the Hammock. That's what it is. And Hoppopotamus. It's an Indian pale ale. So yeah, no, it's great because first of all, the atmosphere is fantastic. It's got an awesome little patio there, and it is very dog friendly. Like they encourage dogs to come, so they have their own dog park there, and you can take beers out to the dog park, or you can just sit in the brewery itself with your dog. I've brought Neville there a couple of times.
Oh, that's sweet! And today's National Puppy Day.
It is National Puppy Day.
Yeah. I see Metazoa all the time because I work in the building right next to it.
Really?
Yep. That building, I'm not going to say what it is.
No.
But, but yeah, so I'll
It's a porn shop.
Yeah, well, you know.
Sorry, adult bookstore.
Thank you. I'm working to get that like normalized.
I'll tell you what, if I worked in a building next door to Metazoa, I would probably be broke.
And I've talked to Kirsten about like at some point, like she and I could go and get like a drink after work. 'Cause she works in the same building, but it's never happened. And also the last year has happened. So
I'll tell you what, anytime hit me up and it's my day off, I'll come running down to Minnesota. I love that place.
Sweet, yeah. Because in a couple of weeks, I'm going to start actually working full days in the office. So yeah, I might take you up on that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll be in the office Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. So
I can steer you towards the beers I enjoy.
Nice.
I've tried just about everything they've had there. So
sweet. Okay. Awesome.
And you'll get to see all the puppy dogs.
Yeah. Oh, that's the big selling point for me.
I mean, it should be.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Doggies. So anyway, that's the Indianapolis brewery section of this podcast. So Fekkes, today on the show we're going to be reviewing the epic and I don't know what else. What
controversial?
Other words? Controversial, I guess. Yeah, I guess there's controversy surrounding it in the very like high profile Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Or Infamous, maybe? Infamous?
Infamous could be it, yeah. Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, I mean, there's just so much to this just story surrounding it and everything. And
it's one of the incredible, like, one of the feel-good internet stories. And you don't get that very often.
And it kind of is. And like, I've thought about this, and I have news that I want to bring up too, so we'll get to that in a second. But like, I've thought about this, like, on one hand, it does seem like that part of it, at least a small piece of it, it seems like it's part of that internet, like, fandom outcry causing a studio to create something that didn't exist without the fandom outcry, which on the surface, yeah, that's true, and that kind of gets a little bit of a bug up my ass a little bit, but the context of why this version didn't exist or why Zack Snyder didn't finish the film at the start is, I think, what makes me less of an obnoxious, cynical.
So you don't like when internet fandom gets to what's the word I'm looking for? Influence production of art, or
I feel like you're saying
no. I'm not saying no. I'm just curious on that perspective.
I don't, because I feel like if.
The other one that was, I never saw it, but the other internet outcry that ended up being successful was over Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh yeah, and
they full on went back and delayed that thing several months to re-render Sonic.
And I didn't like that either. I mean,
I'll tell you this though. I didn't see the movie, but I think the internet was right.
Oh, I do. Okay, I do think that that's right and everything, and like it did look better, but I don't like the idea of like fans or just internet reaction causing something to be changed while it's still in production. Like, I kind of feel like if they wanted, if that was the vision that they had for Sonic, and granted Sonic, it's
a silly example, but it's still a good example.
Yeah, and I mean, that's probably more commerce and more marketing kind of thing.
Well,
or whatever,
it's 100% what that was. I mean,
yeah. And in that movie is not like it's no one's passion project, I don't think. And I know that people worked on it and everything, and there was a lot of people involved in the production, obviously, and I'm sure that they probably stand by it and I kind of enjoy it. But I just don't like the idea of an unfinished product being changed because the marketing reaction. I think that sets a precedent that kind of feels a little bit like it could go a little too far, I guess.
I see what you're, and I don't think you're wrong, but I think a lot of context matters. Like with these two examples, the context of, fans want Sonic the Hedgehog to look like Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, right or wrong, for the studio to go back and change it, that's for, I suppose, the viewer to decide. And I guess if those involved with it had a beef with it too, maybe they could have pushed back. But, clearly no one seemed to have that big of a, problem with going back and re-rendering it.
Yeah.
The Snyder cut of Justice League, again, context matters. It's not like Justice League didn't get released or before the, studio cut got released. It's not like people were out there demanding that they change this or this or
exactly.
this. Everyone knew the behind the scenes.
But even that, and I might be misremembering this kind of controversy and everything, but like the CGI mustache thing.
Oh yeah,
that. It's not like they went and changed that after it was released and everything.
Right.
Which is, what was the thing that they did, that a studio did? They God, what was the movie that came out that it was kind of a garbage movie, I think, but Cats.
The buttholes?
Yeah, no, not the buttholes, but they released the movie, and then like a couple of weeks after they released the movie, they like basically sent out a new version of it with like improved effects and
That's
stuff.
right. Well, I think that's more a problem with something you see in the video game industry of sending out the
Like
product before it's complete. That's a bunch of bullshit, in my opinion, on the studio. If your product's not complete, you don't tell people to go out there and spend $12 to $20 a ticket to go watch it.
Right.
And then 2 weeks later saying, okay, here's the new rendering.
Yeah.
They did that because for whatever reason they thought that this might get studio play in the award ceremonies or any of that garbage.
Yeah.
Or they wanted to get it. What Cats released, like Christmas Day? Was that a Christmas Day
It was
release?
a Christmas Day
I'm sure
release,
they wanted the Christmas Day money.
Yeah.
And
that just reminds me, I will always laugh at the marketing for that where it says, "This Christmas you will believe."
Yeah.
I'm like, believe in what? Okay, that cats can sing, I guess.
I never saw it, have no intention of seeing it. I don't like shitting on movies I haven't seen.
Yeah.
But
as a cat fan, it wasn't good. Yeah. But
did Jason Derulo yell out Jason Derulo at any point during the movie?
I don't know who Jason Derulo is.
Oh, he's a R&B singer, and before every song he's Jason Derulo.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, like almost
God.
every single one of his songs. But he's one of the characters in the Cats. So
Gotcha.
I don't have a problem with Jason Derulo. I just think it's silly that he has to open every song with Jason Derulo.
Right. This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter. But so kind of in a more incendiary kind of way, one of the big issues that I have with like fan outcry is like the people, the subset of fans of Star Wars that get up in arms about any fucking thing.
Well, and you know me, I'm a lifelong diehard Star Wars fan, but even I get annoyed to no business with Star Wars fans.
Right.
They're some of the most pretentious and unable to satisfy group of fans in the history of fandom.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think the new trilogy is a perfect example of that, and we don't need to dive into our opinions about it, but, when The Force Awakens came out, everyone was like, oh, they just rehashed Star Wars. It was just a rehash of Star Wars all over again. The Last Jedi comes out, completely flips a lot of the narrative that's typical Star Wars movies go through, and everyone's complaint was, God, it didn't even feel like a Star Wars movie. What are they even doing? Like, that's not Star Wars. I'm like, what the fuck do you want?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then when The Rise of Skywalker came out, it felt like they were intentionally like paying fan service and to that thing, like little things like, oh God, I can't even remember. Yeah, I don't know. I
don't have a huge problem with fan service because as a fan, it can be fun. Sometimes it gets out of control, and I think Star Wars is probably one of the bigger culprits of fan service. Going a little overboard. But as a fan, I enjoy little tidbits fan service.
Yeah, and fan service done right can be good
Sure.
and everything. But like I kind of feel like the one example I can think of from Rise of Skywalker, 'cause I've only seen it once, or no, I saw it twice in the theater.
Sounded so dejected about that.
Yeah, it was something. But was like when they did that kind of really forced, like, oh, why don't we try the hold-on maneuver? Oh, that'll only work in 1 in a million. Like,
right,
okay,
yeah.
you don't need to call attention to that or anything like that.
I, again, I could go on and defend Rise of Skywalker, but I won't.
Sure.
Like the whole Lando and that girl being,
Yeah.
it's probably his daughter. Oh, okay, all right. Not everyone needs to have an illegitimate daughter or child someplace. Can't they just? Maybe they grew up near one another.
Right.
Why does it have to be like, oh, this is long lost daughter? This is something we can delve into in a comic book.
You know what's interesting, and it's something that we can talk about. Kind of use that to dive into the review of Snyder Cut. But what's interesting is, like, in that case, like the actual like line or whatever was like, oh, where are you from? And she's like, oh, I don't know. And he's like, well, let's find out.
Yeah.
It's like, we'll find out in like a Disney Plus show, probably.
Right? Yeah.
But,
silly.
Yeah, and I hate that, and it's something that we talked about with Alita Battle Angel, like the end of a blockbuster movie that's setting up prequels and franchises and stuff, and it being something that is just like really forced and like an afterthought, and
like casting Edward Norton for 2 seconds in a movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like that kind of bothers me because it just reminds me that, like, okay, there's more effort put into the movie from a financial standpoint and marketing standpoint to make it a long running thing rather than creating a worthwhile product at the beginning, like in having it stand on its own to facilitate a franchising scenario. But to the Snyder Cut's credit, I think the epilogue, which we'll get to and everything in the review, I think that like I was incredibly captivated by that.
Oh yeah, it was some of the best Batman or DC footage or in a film or piece ever.
Right.
Comic books aside.
Yep. And yeah, we can actually go into our review of Zack Snyder's Justice League here. I did have some news, but it'll be a week old by the time this episode airs, so it doesn't matter. Disney announced a bunch of moves.
Pissing me off.
Yeah. Black Widow is going to be in July, and I know that you were very upset about Cruella. Is that right?
I think Cruella looks good.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Oh, okay.
I think it looks fun.
Yeah, I guess.
Cynical.
Yeah, huh?
Cynical.
Well, I don't care. Like, I just don't care about Cruella.
I like Emma Stone.
Yeah.
And I think it's a fun take on a character. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah.
Could be a sleeper hit.
Yeah. But yeah, they're also doing the premium access thing, which I will never pay $30 for a movie at home.
No, I'll go to the theater.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And by that time, I'll probably be vaccinated. So, I'll go to the theater also, or get a screener of it. I don't know. But anyway, that out of the way, I'll put a link in the show notes. But let's go ahead and review Zack Snyder's Justice League. All right. And so Zack Snyder's Justice League is a movie that is on HBO Max right now, and I'm going to play...
It's a good description.
It is, yes. That is all it is. It's a movie that's on HBO Max. So I'm going to play a clip from the trailer here, and then we'll do a non-spoiler and spoiler review. So this will be the non-spoiler section, and I'm going to play a clip from the trailer right now.
The bell's been rung. Out in the dark, among the stars, the god is dead.
I had a dream. Almost like a premonition. I think there's an attack coming.
All right, so Zack Snyder's Justice League is after. Okay, I'm gonna read the plot summary from HBO Max or from whatever it is.
Paramount Plus.
From IMDb, the plot summary is Zack Snyder's definitive director's cut of Justice League determined to ensure Superman's ultimate sacrifice was not in vain. Bruce Wayne aligns forces with Diana Prince with plans to recruit a team of metahumans to protect the world from an approaching threat of catastrophic proportions. So, Fekkes, you are a proud fan of Zack Snyder's work.
Unapologetic. Proud fan of Zack Snyder's work.
And before we dig into the actual movie review and stuff, I think it's kind of important to bring up like how we feel about both Zack Snyder's DC movies up until now, and also how we felt about the theatrical cut by Joss Whedon of Justice League. So, just to recap for the listeners, how did you feel about? Oh God, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman.
I mean, we can talk Wonder Woman since it technically did come out before Justice League, but
right.
Aquaman.
But he also didn't do that.
No, he didn't.
Yeah. But yeah, how do you feel about the DCEU?
I'm well recorded on this podcast defending Zack Snyder in every way with the DCEU. Man of Steel, I've never been a big Superman fan. I've always thought his character to be kind of boring, and I don't like the impenetrable superhero that has no weakness, but occasionally this, rock. But I really enjoyed Man of Steel for a lot of reasons. One, I love the opening prologue on Krypton, showing the collapse of that civilization. I love how he interwove Clark's upbringing with his adulthood. I like the flashbacks I love Kevin Costner's portrayal as Clark's father.
Yeah.
The fight scenes, I thought, man, I think he does such a good job of showcasing how powerful the Kryptonians are in their battles. How quickly they strike, and you feel the power of the strike, and that's has a lot to do with editing and sound effects. But I thought it just really does a good job of showcasing how powerful these beings were, and how epic their battles would be taking place amongst regular mortals. So just the epicness of the battles, especially when it hits Metropolis. A lot of people's take on it were that was just destruction porn. Why did Michael Bay make a Superman movie? And I get what people are saying, but I also. I don't like brag. I'm not trying to brag and say like I saw beyond.
Right.
But I knew where they were going with the destruction portion of it. You had to set up a means or a reason for Batman to want to go after Superman, and it is because he has no idea how destructive he can be, even when trying to do good. Like, yeah, he just saved the world from Zod, but in doing so, destroyed one of the major metropolises of the world.
Yeah.
And so, there's a line in Batman v Superman where he says, if there's even a 1% chance that he's going to turn evil, we have to take that as an absolute certainty. And so I see the mindset of Batman going into Batman v Superman. So I really liked that setup of Man of Steel, and I thought they did a great job of introducing Superman as like a relatable human character, not just an overpowered Kryptonian. And so going into Batman v Superman, again, I get people's criticisms of the movie. I fully acknowledge that it's not a perfect movie, but to me, I just think it does such a great job of showcasing that rivalry between Batman and Superman that's pretty prominent in the comic books, where they've hashed it out before.
Okay, yeah.
And I thought they did a good job of making it a way that Bruce is a apt competitor to Superman, because in real life we know that if that were a thing that to occur, Superman would just you're dead.
Right. Yeah.
But I thought they did a good job bringing in what's the kryptonite technology and bringing in the fight. I love Lex Luthor's portrayal in that movie. I thought Jesse Eisenberg did a great job. And again, like I think I've even said it on this on the podcast before, talking about like in my opinion, everything you need to know about the motivations of Lex Luthor comes in that speech he's given to the library, the charity scene, where he gets visibly upset talking about people without people that have all the intelligence seldom have the power. And so I feel like that he sees a being like Superman, who, and Lex Luthor's always contention with Superman is he's just a person that punches the solutions into everything. He has no nuance, no thought process. He's just a superpowered metahuman. But he gets glorified as a god, while Lex Luthor, on the other hand, is a genius, has made billions in technology and through his intelligence, but not nearly as revered as Superman is. And so I see the anger in that kind of motivation. So I always understood, at least in my opinion, that's how I understood Lex Luthor in the Batman v Superman movie. So, and I liked that approach with it too. Like, you have to give Lex Luthor a reason to want to go and destroy this man that the world views as, an absolute hero. So, I'll go to my grave defending Batman v Superman, especially the director's cut. I think that does a really good job of fleshing out the characters. And not only that, I just rewatched Batman v Superman again last week, and I never realized how much they add to the process that Lex Luthor uses to make those two fight each other. Okay. Like, I never picked up on a couple of things, like him bribing the African lady that was in the very beginning that had her village destroyed. When at the start of it, and she's the one that comes to Congress to testify against Superman, and later on you see that Lex Luthor's henchmen are out to shut her off because she goes into Holly Hunter's office to confess what she's told Congress wasn't the truth. And so, like, it, and also the way that he manipulates the person that lost his legs in in Man of Steel, that ended up being a worker for Bruce Wayne.
He was in Man of Steel?
No, he was not in Man of Steel, but at the very beginning of Bruce Wayne lifts a girder off of him at the beginning of Batman v Superman, and they kind of do a little bit better job of showcasing how Lex Luthor kind of steered him into the position he needed to.
Does the director's cut do anything to really make, like, to really further explain the jar of piss thing?
I thought that was funny. I thought it was fun. To me, that just goes into the eccentricities of Lex Luthor.
Yeah, and so I do.
I will not defend the Jolly Rancher scene.
I was going to say that too.
I will not do that. I don't know why that was a thing.
I can't say for certain, like, I can't say with any authority, like, how I feel about Batman v Superman. Like, go check out the episode that we did back then, because I have not watched it since, so I can't really say one way or the other. I do remember thinking that the actual, like, them duking it out was, I think, the novelty of that, like seeing Batman fight Superman in a movie theater, RIP, and seeing that on screen was a very, like, just fun moment. Like, it was just pure fun, even though the tone of it was obviously very dark and very, like, very serious and everything. It was still, like, a very, like, just fun, like, oh, this is a thing that I'm seeing in a movie theater right now. Like, this is a thing that's happening.
And I thought, first of all, I will continue to go on record as talking about Ben Affleck being, in my opinion, one of the best Batman / Bruce Waynes they've done. He's the old, grizzled, cynical Batman. Yeah. I really dug it.
I'd go a step further also and say that Jeremy Irons as Alfred is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love Jeremy Irons as Alfred. He's perfect. They've never quite really done Alfred the way Alfred is in the comic books, and Jeremy Irons really nails it, because that's how Alfred is in the comic books. He's very snide, very underhanded comments, always pretty much talking smack about Bruce Wayne's fight against crime. Jeremy Irons is amazing, and you're right, he's completely underrated as Alfred. There's
a line, to jump ahead just a little bit, there's a line in the Snyder cut that I don't know if it was in the original cut, but it's when Bruce introduces the Justice League to Alfred, and he's like, "This is Alfred. I work for him."
Yeah,
like, I was like, "That was
good." No, I don't. I want to say that was not in the original theatrical cut.
But anyway, so Batman v Superman, fine. I didn't really like Man of Steel either. That's another thing I'm gonna have to revisit at some point. But
I don't think your opinion's going to change on it.
Probably
like
not.
I don't see it happening. I know your taste in movies,
Yeah.
and so I just rewatch it if you want, but I don't expect your world to change.
Okay. But the theatrical cut of Justice League, that was another experience where I think we may have reviewed it on the podcast, or maybe me and Kirsten. I can't remember because I saw it in the theater with Kirsten.
God, I want to say me and you did.
Probably, but I remember thinking it was fun. Like it was a fun movie that just lacked a ton of substance. Like it just didn't and
I think I probably glowed a little bit more than I wanted should have when we reviewed it. And not that I don't ever remember saying that this is a great movie, but I think one of the things was that it was good to see Ben Affleck back in the bat suit.
Yeah.
It's somewhat decent fight scenes in it, but yeah, it's really, even then it was a mishmash of a movie.
Yeah, it just felt just so hollow.
Right.
Like it just felt like, I remember Steppenwolf, like, first of all, looking just atrocious.
Oh, I had to go back and Google what Steppenwolf looked like in the theatrical cut, and I can't believe how silly he looked.
Yeah.
Like, it was laughable.
I remember likening it to the, or maybe you likened it to the, I've tried looking up our Justice League review. I can't find it, but I remember thinking or mentioning or hearing someone say that the visual effects of Steppenwolf looked like a PS3 like cutscene.
Yeah.
CGI. It was terrible. But yeah, anyway, so now we've got the Snyder cut. It was a long road to get there. I will say that we're going to do a non-spoiler and spoiler review, so we'll get into the nitty-gritty in the spoiler review, but I do want to say that there was, like, the moment right before the closing credits when it just says "For Autumn," I was like,
perfect.
that was just, that hit home. Not hit home because
but you understood the impact of that
exactly
dedication.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was just a crystallizing moment for the viewing of it. I did watch this in 2 separate sittings.
Oh, I watched it in 4.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah. So I originally I was gonna tough it out, come home from work one night and sit there until 2:30 in the morning and watch it. I was tired that night, so I think I watched maybe 3 chapters of it. When I woke up after the gym the next day, I went home and watched a chapter, then another chapter when I got back from work, and then the next day when I woke up, I finished it.
Nice. To HBO Max's credit, which you don't really need this since, it just saves your space anyway. But did you notice that, like, they have little chapter marks on the, like, if you pause it and look at the,
no, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I was like I paused it at one point, and I was like looking at, like, I don't know, I looked to see how much time I looked to see how much time I had gone into it. It was like 32 minutes. And I was like, oh, there are little notches on here. Wow. Okay. That's cool. But yeah, so to their credit, I thought that was really, really cool of them. Going into it, I was going to rewatch, or I was thinking about rewatching the theatrical cut, which I found surprising that it's not on HBO Max.
Yeah, that surprises me too. I bought it just because.
Yeah, I have a digital copy of it. But
did I send it to you?
No, maybe Robert in Utah did. Maybe. Yeah, because I can't imagine a world where I bought it. But thank you, Robert in Utah. But I was just like, okay, I'm not gonna, because I think that I kind of thought that if I were to rewatch Justice League, the theatrical cut, I feel like that would have skewed. I think it would have had a negative effect on my viewing of the Snyder cut, specifically because I already know that I was, like, at best just like uninterested in the theatrical cut, and I kind of feel like going through 2 hours of a movie that I already know that I didn't really like that much. and then going into a 4-hour version of it, that's obviously going to be considerably different, but still the same in certain aspects. I was just like, that's going to set me up to not like the Snyder Cut.
So I had a similar thought process. Basically, you're going to rewatch the same movie over again.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to have the Snyder Cut sullied by watching almost the same movie before, and therefore, like, man, I just watched this, because there's still a significant portion of the theatrical cut that's in the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to be like, okay, I saw this now, and just get antsy or bored with it. So I just wanted to go straight in fresh to the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, and that also kind of calls back to something we talked about on Patreon, patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. But like, it sets you up to view the Snyder Cut in relation to the theatrical cut instead of as its own entity thing. So it's like when Tiny and I review novels and books from Stephen King together. It's like that kind of, or novels and movies.
I didn't even catch it.
Yeah. Novels and adaptations together, it's like it kind of makes it more about what's the differences and everything. So to go into Justice League, the Snyder Cut kind of fresh is a kind of good way to go into it, in my opinion, especially for me, who I've only seen the theatrical cut once. So I went in without really, like, I remembered pieces vaguely and from the theatrical cut. So like when Batman is talking to Arthur, and when like some of the stuff with basically him meeting everyone individually, I remember those scenes, but it wasn't like a thing where I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is different from that. It was more like this is Zack Snyder's full vision. So I can kind of appreciate that. Now, I've got to say, overall thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League. I liked it. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. But I don't know that I'll ever really be able to really be a fan of Zack Snyder's style. If you're not a fan of his style, then you're just not going to be a fan of any of his movies, because he's had the same style since Dawn of the Dead. Right. So to expect him to change it up, I mean, that's like expecting Michael Bay to come out with his Romeo and Juliet. Right. So and it's fine. If you don't like his style, you don't like his style. And even like Dawn of the Dead is probably, I would say definitely it's my favorite Zack Snyder movie.
Well, it's probably, besides Guardians, the Owl movie he made, it's probably the least Zack Snyder style of his movies.
Yeah, because almost everything after that, aside from the Owl movie, has that kind of just dark visual tone, like that almost comic booky tone, which, I mean, obviously with the stuff that he's been doing kind of fits that. Like, it worked really well for Watchmen, but even like in the DC movies, like it's like he's in, I don't know, it just seems like every scene is like way too dimly lit, and it's supposed to be brooding, but it just seems distracting to me.
I think it goes back to trying to set itself apart from like the MCU. Yeah. So the DCEU from the start has been a much more serious tone, much more somber, heavy hitting type of movies, in my opinion. Yeah. And that's what I had come to expect out of the DCEU. And so I appreciate the deviation from how MCU is. And don't get me wrong, biggest fan of the MCU. Right. But I think that those two universes should become vastly different. And so I appreciate Zack Snyder's darker tone, more Watchmen style. And Watchmen's a DC comic book too. Right. So that it's not like that's coming out of nowhere. That's DC. That's a lot of DC's main character arcs are kind of a darker nature. They have their more lighthearted ones like Shazam, but
which Shazam is super fun.
Shazam's a great movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But the comic books in general too. You know, Shazam's more a lighthearted comic book, and so you know, obviously Batman and Detective Comics are going to be darker in tone because it's Batman. That's how Batman is. Right. I don't read much Aquaman or any of it, to be for that matter. But so I can't say what kind of tone it has. But like the Justice League comics, they're kind of a darker tone too. So to me, it fits the DCEU.
Yeah, and I totally get that. I just think it's just an aesthetic that I sour on it pretty easily. But
and you know, not every artist is for everybody.
Yeah, but I will say that this was maybe the first time that I saw like a Zack Snyder movie that has this palette and everything, where I didn't find it as distracting as I did previously, and I didn't find it as much of a deterrent to my enjoyment of it than really any of his other stuff, including Watchmen. And I really like Watchmen. So, I mean, that's a credit to probably the length of the movie too, because after like maybe chapter 3 or 4, I was like, okay, I'm actually like, I'm in this world. I'm used to it now. It's not standing out or anything to me anymore. The other thing, and I'm gonna make this snarky joke, but so a fun fact that a lot of people probably don't realize is that, okay, so the theatrical cut was 120 minutes, I think.
I think it was 2 hours on the dot.
Yeah, 2 hours on the dot, and the Snyder cut is 4 hours and 2 minutes. But and that's getting a lot of press because, you know, it's a big long cut of it. But if you take all of the slow motion scenes and play them at normal speed, it's actually shorter than the theatrical version.
I did read a stat today that 10% of the new footage is in slow motion.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And that's when you think about it, that's a large percentage of slow motion.
It is.
Now, I like it. I like that style. I like his slow motion style because I think it very much resembles comic book paneling.
That's fair. That is absolutely, I definitely get that, and I absolutely kind of see that as well, and it does work in certain contexts, like Wonder Woman's first scene in that in the heist or whatever,
the museum.
Yeah, the museum, where like she's very slowly trying to stop a bullet from getting a hostage and everything, and like the suspense and the tension of that is really good, and especially since that comes after like maybe the first time in the movie that we like realize like oh there's blood in this.
Yeah.
There's blood in this. Like that prepped me, like I'd forgotten about like all the headlines I'd read about how bloody it was.
I forgot that it was R-rated.
Me too. And when we have that suspenseful, like Diana like running and trying to get her little like armband thing up to deflect the bullet, I'm like, are we gonna see this dude's head just fucking explode?
Right,
like,
yeah.
Is this gonna be like a moment? So it worked, and I've got to say, as far as like, I don't know what the reception has been for this overall and for the kind of more bloody stuff, but honestly, I mean, by the end of it, I honestly kind of thought the blood was a little tame.
I think it works,
and it
especially
works really
for the
well.
tone.
Yeah, it does. And like, even that, I don't think this is intentional by any stretch, but there was a moment where it was right before that scene when they're setting up that them going into the museum, and you see the henchmen and everything, and then you see the guy go behind the guard and shoot him, kind of execution style. And like it cuts away like a Christopher Nolan PG-13 Batman.
Yeah.
Like you don't see it. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that that's a thing. And then like the next scene is like them shooting someone else and just blood on the street or something. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I was just like, oh, I kind of had to recalibrate.
So
my
long
humor.
story short, guys, it satisfied Matt's bloodlust.
Yes, it did. I want more blood in my comic book movies. Yeah, but like I said, it was just it was. I honestly kind of thought it was a little tame. A little like it.
Well, I agree. Yeah. I don't want to say it was tame. I want to say that it was used, maybe not perfectly, but appropriately.
Yeah,
so they didn't
subtle enough.
Yeah, so they didn't go out of the way to Quentin Tarantino it from Kill
That's
Bill
true.
and just have fountains of blood. But where the blood or the F-bombs occurred, it felt natural. Didn't feel like they were like, okay, so it's we have 2 fucks to give. Okay,
Right.
let's give it to Batman here. Everyone's gonna love hearing Batman say fuck. Okay,
Right.
where should we put the other fuck? So it sounded the blood, the cursing, it seemed very natural to the movie.
I agree. I really agree. And, kind of, in being in the shadow of the Infinity Saga of the MCU. So after Endgame, like living in that universe, and I mean, okay, I'm not, this isn't going to be a criticism of Justice League or anything, because it's the same kind of setup of the theatrical version, and it's also like the criticism, I guess, or the comment I'm going to make is that it's just, I mean, it's very similar to just comic book movie stuff. Like, okay, we have 3 mother boxes,
Right.
We have 6 Infinity Stones. Like, it's kind of,
and you know, comic books are like that too.
Exactly.
So you know,
Yeah.
you have Iron Man, you have Cyborg,
Yeah.
you have Aquaman, you have Namor, you have Black Widow, you have Wonder Woman's not the appropriate. I mean, there's a parallel.
Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
guess.
Captain
Yeah.
Marvel and Wonder. You have Captain America and you have Superman.
Yeah.
So those
you have
parallels.
Slade Wilson, you have Wade Wilson.
So, yes, that is accurate.
Right.
But Slade Wilson or Wade Wilson was done to fuck with DC over
I
that.
think I remember. I think we talked
Yeah.
about that. But that's pretty cool.
But those parallels have always been there. So you can't sit. Like it's a valid critique, but
Yeah.
it's an expected trope
Yeah.
that you're going to encounter.
And the thing that I kind of, and this might be a little, this might be a little too highbrow for Matt Hurt to bring up, but like the thing I kind of, the thing that I thought about really when, specifically in the movie, when Wonder Woman, it's after the Amazons have fired set the fire and everything to signal her. Where she's going down, like she has like the arrow and she's going down and she sees like an Indiana Jones type of thing where she
Right.
puts it in there and everything. Like that made me think of how, and also that flashback scene to like the big war thing, the Lord of the Rings style war that they had. Like that just made me think about how a lot of people say that, like, you know, these comic book movies, these comic book stories are like modern myth making and this is the current like our society's like mythology and everything.
I've heard that argument, but comic books borrow a lot from mythology too.
Yeah,
so.
but I mean, everything borrows from
Yeah.
everything. There are 7 plots that exist in the world, but I kind of like that as kind of an idea. I don't know if I buy into it particularly that heavily, but I do kind of like that as a sentiment that, like, okay, these are stories of like these are human beings creating stories about like superpowered people, like unimaginable gods on Earth and everything. And like I mean,
Odysseus and the Odyssey, Troy, or not? It's not called Troy. It's the what's the name of the book?
Iliad?
The Iliad.
Yeah.
The Iliad. So
Yeah.
you're not wrong.
the Obsessive Viewer podcast.
I don't know. And comic book fan though I am, I pause at giving too much credibility to, you know, comic books. There's some incredible comic books out there that I would consider highbrow art.
Archie.
Yes. But not all comic books.
Right.
So
You heard it here first, Fekkes. Not all comic books. Hashtag not all comic books.
I get what you're saying, but I kind of look at comic books as, you know, comic books are comic books. Occasionally there's
pop art.
Yeah, exactly. They're pop
Yeah.
art. Occasionally there's going to be something hugely artistic to come out of it. Sometimes there's going to be creators that are going to, you know, be infamous in their creations. And the writer of 300, I would say, is probably one of the Frank Miller. He's an amazing artist. He's an amazing storyteller. So there are going to be those outliers, but for the most part, I try not to take comic books too seriously.
Yeah, I don't take them that seriously either, really, because I don't really read them. But I do, like, I think just in broad terms, I just like that sentiment. And
that's fair.
And that kind of made me more in tune with Justice League, this version of Justice League, because it is a sprawling, epic thing. To kind of transition a little bit, I want to ask you if you've read anything as to why the aspect ratio was changed, or because it pops up at the beginning. It says the aspect ratio is like 4:3 or whatever, and it's to to honor Zack Snyder's vision or something like that.
The best that I can tell, it's just what Zack Snyder wanted.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's got a specific affinity for that aspect ratio. It didn't bother me as much as I thought it was.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to take me out of it, but it didn't at all.
Yeah, it didn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
Like I just thought it was an interesting kind of aesthetic choice, and because I can't think of any other movies of his that has that. Even the DC movies,
either.
Yeah.
So two theories. One, maybe he just really likes the aspect ratio, and no studio in their right mind nowadays is going to let an artist do that right now because you make movies for theatrical release, and that's not a theatrical release aspect ratio. Or two, maybe it's easier to edit in a money-saving scenario since they're doing. And again, I have no evidence to base any of this on. This is just maybe a plausible theory. Maybe if you keep it at aspect ratio that it was produced, maybe it's easier to edit. I don't know. The only thing that I've read is that's just what Zack Snyder wanted.
Yeah, and I mean it lends a uniqueness to the finished product. I'll say that. Like, and it's not a detractor or anything. So I just thought it was an interesting choice.
I think it'll be interesting too with that aspect ratio when they release the black and white cut.
I was gonna ask you, like, are you, because I kind of feel like you've said before that maybe you're just not a fan of like them re-releasing stuff in black and white, like the noir cut of
I feel like
Logan.
Again, context matters. I'll watch this just because if it's a specific vision that Zack Snyder had, maybe it's something I want to watch. And maybe I'll go back and watch the Logan cut of it too. But sometimes I just think it's, I don't know, a marketing ploy. Like
I do too.
I think like Ghost of Tsushima, like I don't want to play that in black and white.
I played it in black and white the first time. Yeah, I played it in Kurosawa mode because I have such a hard on for Kurosawa.
I get what they're doing.
Yeah.
I do. But I paid high dollar for a video game for certain effects, and I'm sorry. I'm gonna.
That's fair. I will say in Ghost of Tsushima's defense, they do have like this film grain effect to it as well. So it's not just black and white. It's black and white plus film grain to kind of give that classic samurai film kind of
again.
aesthetic.
I see what they're trying to do, and I appreciate that. Maybe can you switch back and forth?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, maybe I should have played an hour or two with it then. But you know, I pay $60 for a video game to play on a $400 machine to watch on a $1,200 TV.
Right.
I want to get as much out of that experience as I can.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to a video game that is 30 plus hours, most likely not going to replay.
Right.
Especially since I sold my PlayStation. So.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I finished Cyberpunk. And there was no other games that were going to be released that I wanted to play on the PlayStation 4, so I just sold it to get as much money out of it to buy the PlayStation 5.
Gotcha. Which you have not been able to because of...
No, but I'm not in a rush.
Shocking, yeah.
Yeah, I have my Nintendo Switch still, and I'm deep into a game on the Nintendo right now, so I'm in no hurry. I'll check periodically to see if I can pick one up, but I'm not in any rush.
Nice. Well, let's Nintendo switch gears and go back to the Snyder Cut, really. So, yeah, we're still in non-spoilers. We'll get into spoilers here in a second, I think. But I want to kind of talk about the expansion of it. Like, I feel like, and this is where my memory of the theatrical cut is going to fail me a little bit, but I do feel like there was a very concentrated effort in this movie to actually give Steppenwolf, like, any type of
without a doubt, because the original theatrical cut, you're just kind of like, I don't know why this guy wants to do this.
This PS3 cutscene pops up, and he's just doing things for no reason that we can discern.
I have zero idea of this guy's motivation, except for he's a big, monster-looking guy. And if you're a big monster-looking guy, you're gonna want to destroy the Earth for reasons, I guess. But so it was so refreshing to get not only a reason, but you kind of flesh Steppenwolf out a bit.
Yeah,
you get the backstory. You get that he's on the out right now,
and it makes his whole motivation for it. Like I love it when they develop a villain.
Right. Yeah.
But you might say that he's trying to Arthur Curry favor with Darkseid.
No one would want to say that. No one. God damn it.
Yep. I was really excited to say that.
But it also makes this. How long have you been saving that one up?
Ever since I first started watching the Snyder Cut.
Nice. Have fucking made me lose track of where my thought was gonna go. God damn it!
And this is the Obsessive Viewer Podcast, like part and parcel. But yeah, giving him motivation, him being on the outs with Darkseid,
and his desperation makes sense too. So you get why he's throwing caution to the wind at certain points, and you get his why he's making such drastic actions. Instead of just like, hey man, I got all the time in the world. I got a secret base in the Ukraine. I'm chilling.
Right. And as a fan of the MCU, and Disney has paid me to talk favorably. They haven't. I'm just, I
wonder where Pizza got that new cat castle.
Right. Oh, yeah. So there's like a Mickey Mouse thing. Anyway, but there's not. But anyway, but oh my God, I just lost my train of thought. Now it's payback for me.
That's right.
Yeah. But no, I love the MCU and everything, but I will say that the motivation and the development of Steppenwolf in this, I think is better than what they did with like Ronan the Accuser in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1.
Yes, I agree. Well, and if you're comparing comic book villain movies to comic book villains, I would say that Steppenwolf's new motivations are better than the majority of the MCU's villains, and not everyone, because obviously Thanos wins it all. I mean, that's he was developed perfectly. Yeah, but you have the dark elves from the dark Thor world. The dark world. Yeah.
Even Loki in the Avengers was a little like it was solid.
Yeah,
but I
he's
think
spoiled brat. Syndrome with that. Yeah. So, Abomination in the Hulk. Right. So he, in my opinion, he's probably Steppenwolf's development is probably on the upper 50% of the MCU.
Honestly,
villains.
I would say that. Yeah. Please do not bounce any checks to me, Disney. But yeah, I do agree. Like it is a very worthwhile addition to the movie, and it really helped flesh it out. And the other characters, like it's been reported very widely since Ray Fisher had all of that stuff. That
Jesus, if I were Ray Fisher, I would want to straight murk Joss Whedon.
No,
the hit job he did on it's like he had something personal against Cyborg. Right, like they're just. Here, say booyah, and that's your line.
Oh, yeah. Like, I remember in the theatrical cut, I remember thinking, like, Cyborg is pretty fucking cool. Like, I'd be very interested in more stuff with Cyborg. And, like, here, we get so much stuff.
Turns out they filmed a lot.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's really cool. It's really good. And he's great.
He is really great. And it's such a great backstory for this character.
Oh, totally.
And that's he's a heartbreaking character. Yeah. And you get none of that in the theatrical cut. Right. It's like Joss Whedon came in and just tipped Ray Fisher out of his chair. Yeah. It's like, I don't understand it. Yeah. Like, there's such good content. Yeah. Like, my only criticism would be, and it has nothing to do with writing or anything like that, it has everything to do with that they had to go back and do this for the Snyder Cut, is the CGI for Cyborg gets a little iffy on the scenes that were brought in. And I get that, because now it's expensive to render that character. Right. Like, super expensive.
And even then, like, now that you say it, it kind of retroactively makes me kind of notice some of the little splotches there here and there in my memory. But in the moment, it didn't factor into
it. It doesn't take away from it, because from that point, I knew a lot of the scenes that were going to be made for the Snyder Cut were going to be a little bit choppy, because they weren't going to get the financial backing that the theatrical release was going to get. So they gave Snyder, here's X amount of money. I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of like $75 million. Go do what you want to do. We'll give you Jared Leto too. Fuck it. Yeah. So I forgive it for that. But man, it's infuriating how much of that character that they cut.
Oh, totally. And what makes me... Okay, so, and we may be skipping ahead a little bit, but it makes me wonder, like, if... I mean, it's been well regarded. Like, this Snyder Cut has had, like, a good, reaction from like almost universally.
Especially for a Zack Snyder movie.
Absolutely. And especially with something that's so like kind of has that baggage of like fandom outcry and everything. But it makes me think, like, by the end of this movie I was like, I want to see more. Like, I want to see more.
I want to see a Cyborg movie now.
Yeah, like,
which is not going to happen because I'm pretty sure
and that's what I'm getting at.
Ray Fisher is just
done with Warner Brothers. And
when the Ray Fisher stories started to break about a year and a half ago, I didn't dismiss it, but I wasn't that interested into it because I don't know the behind the scenes stuff.
Sure.
And so the more you read on it, you kind of like, man, Joss Whedon never really struck me as kind of a guy to be that big of a dick about something like that. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but that's weird. And then I see this, and I'm like, fuck.
And then also, for me, it was like, okay, that seems kind of weird. Like, wow, like it's kind of strange that it's coming up now and everything. But then like Charisma Carpenter, I think, came out and spoke out against Joss Whedon.
I don't know who Charisma Carpenter is.
She was on one of his shows, like Buffy or Angel or something. But yeah, she was talking about how. I think it was her. Like, she was talking about how when she was working on one of his shows, she was pregnant. She got pregnant, and he was like just an absolute nightmare toward her, and like cut her out of the show or something, like unceremoniously, and like basically made her feel terrible for having a family and stuff.
I mean, she should, but that.
Well, yeah. You know. ACAB, all children are bad.
I subscribe to that.
But no, so the like all of the stuff that's come out against Joss Whedon, like it makes sense and everything.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
Yeah, but the fact that if the DCEU continues in this format, which I never like, if you would have said a couple of years ago, like, oh, Matt, you're gonna watch the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, and then you're going to think, oh, this would be a really good jumping off point for a cinematic universe.
Yeah,
I would be like, you're fucking crazy. But it is like, and we'll talk more about that when we get into spoilers and get into the epilogue and everything. But I was just like, I want to see this expanded. I want to see more of this. And I mean, to the credit of this,
I feel vindicated.
Vindicated,
Matt.
And I feel like people are going to I feel like I'm going to get canceled. They're going to bring up all of my past podcasting, just shitting on Zack Snyder. But I will say, I mean, I really, really was into this.
Turns out Warner Brothers should have listened to Zack Snyder and quit and stopped bitching about his length of his superhero movies.
Yeah, I agree, and that's weird because I mean they let Nolan run almost 3 hour.
I think
Batman.
I think that's different. I think it's a different take because Nolan's Batman movies started before the MCU did. So
That's true.
They didn't have their competition yet. Like the DCEU was a direct competition to the MCU. The Dark Knight trilogy was of its own separate entity. So
yeah, that's true. And also by design, those were just much more grounded in reality, and that was like kind of the appeal of them. God, those are so good.
Yeah, I watched the whole trilogy recently. They're fantastic movies.
Oh, absolutely. So should we go into spoilers for Zack Snyder's Justice League? Okay, so I'm going to play another clip from the trailer. I'm going to kind of let it run so because I played the beginning of it and I didn't cut the entire thing. So we're going to go into spoilers for Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Snyder Cut on HBO Max. So if you haven't seen it and don't want to be spoiled, come back and listen to us talk about it later and check the timestamps, although I think this might be all that we do. So anyway, we're going to go into spoilers now.
The god is dead.
I had a dream. Almost like a premonition. I think there's an attack coming.
My lord, this world will fall.
I need warriors.
Okay, so I want to talk about, and I should have said this in non-spoilers. By the way, spoilers on for Zack Snyder's Justice League. I think that this was in the theatrical cut, but the kind of the backstory that Diana says about like the joining together of all of Earth's like defenders
like
and everything.
The Age of Heroes.
Yeah, the Age of Heroes. Man, just as much as a disconnect as I have for Zack Snyder's like vision and his like finished like product in almost everything he does. That was just so striking, and it felt just so much like reminiscent of like Lord of the Rings and everything. Naturally,
it was epic.
Yeah.
It was such an epic fight, and it was fun seeing all of these like characters from the comic book universe kind of, you know, peppered into this giant fight scene.
The only one I really caught was I assume a member of the Green Lantern Corps.
You had the Green Lantern Corps in there. You had Hercules. You had the Amazonians and the what were the names? The Atlanteans. So it was fantastic. I loved seeing that huge battle.
Yeah,
and it's almost like, and it's not on scale of the Endgame battle,
right?
But it's almost like
what is really?
Right? Yeah, but it's like throwing the Endgame battle right at the start of the film. So I really appreciate it. Brought good way to bring everyone right into the movie.
Absolutely, and it definitely gives a good kind of backstory to everything. Like the stakes are established very quickly, and even though it is a textbook comic book, like, oh, we need to get these 3 things or protect these 3 things so that they don't join together and everything, it was still an effective way to bring it up and to introduce us to it and everything.
Yeah, and it's a good introduction to the dark side too. It'll show just how imposing figure that he is.
Yeah.
And yeah, I dug it.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I don't remember from the theatrical version. Maybe a small version of it.
It wasn't in it.
Okay, it wasn't? No. Okay, wow. So yeah.
Because the start of the theatrical version goes to that weird YouTube video of Superman with the fucked up lip. That's the very beginning of...
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because in the beginning of this, they have... I almost said Spider-Man. Superman's death, and I really like how the kind of sound wave reverberates through all of these characters. And
I love how it indicates that it's known now that the Kryptonian's dead, so Earth is fair game.
Right.
And I like how they go into that. They bring that up later on in the movie too, but I love how they showcase that.
Yeah. Oh, me too. And the thing about Superman, one of the criticisms I have for this is obviously the movie goes to great lengths to have the story be about them having to resurrect Superman to protect Earth and you know, defeat Steppenwolf and Darkseid and all that. And pizza's pooping. So I should put a jingle on here so that there's like a break where it's like, pizza's pooping. But anyway, so the them resurrecting Superman, I thought it was really engaging and really cool, and I think it's mostly from the theatrical version as well.
Yeah, they go into a little bit more in depth in discussing it in the Snyder cut, and you see a lot more opposition coming from Aquaman's end in this one. But I can't remember if they talked about, because I really enjoyed the discussion or the explanation of why it can happen, how, you know, a burnt down building turns particles into smoke, so it'd be like reversing the smoke particles back into its original form. Right. So I can't remember if that was in the theatrical cut or not.
Yeah, me neither.
But I really enjoyed that explanation for it.
Yeah, me too. And one of the things I was kind of really interested in was that it makes sense. Like I don't know. I know that there's a bunch of like DC animated movies and stuff, and I know obviously there are Justice League comics and everything, but I found it interesting that this story is about resurrecting Superman so that he can, you know, save Earth and everything because he's like the most powerful one and everything. But what I found interesting is that like that seems like a natural way to introduce, like, have Superman be part of Justice League, because he is by definition overpowered in almost every sense. Which is why I really like the epilogue, because I love the idea of them going in. Like, if I had my druthers, it would be interesting to see them make another a sequel, have Zack Snyder do another sequel to this, and have it be that alternate version, that vision that Batman has. That's
the Nightmare realm.
Yeah. Which was in Batman v Superman also.
Briefly. Yeah. So it was in Batman v Superman. Bruce is waiting on the decryption of the file he stole from Lex, and he falls asleep at the desk, and it goes into, he's dreaming of the Nightmare realm, and he thinks he's getting the ultimate weapon to combat Superman, but he is betrayed, and it goes to Superman coming down with Bruce captured and just murking everybody. And then he wakes up to a premonition of the Flash, presumably traveling through time, letting Bruce know that Lois Lane is the key.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So that's from Batman v Superman: Dawn of Piss Jar, and but yeah, I was just I had kind of forgotten about that from the first one, and when it got to that, I was like, at first I felt like an idiot, and I was a little confused, like, wait, what the fuck is going on? And then like it came together, and like even though like that image of Superman was like promoted and everything, like it was online and everything. I was just like, oh shit, they're talking about Superman. Yeah. Like, I want to see that. Like, I want to see that so bad.
It's horrible that we won't.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, the resurrecting Superman thing, like, I don't know how they can do, and I know that they have, but I don't know how they could do like a conventional, like, oh, Superman part of the Justice League, and have it be like them fighting anything.
Right. I'm sure, I don't read the Justice League comics, but I'm sure there are appropriate villains that combat and give challenge to Superman. Right. But yeah, it's a much better, in my opinion, much better story to need him to fight the big fight, and therefore, he must be acquired. Yeah. Instead of, because it just wouldn't be a fight if, just Steppenwolf showed up and Superman's like, fuck you, get out of here.
Right, exactly. And that's what I kind of have a bit of an issue with this version of Justice League, is that for all of the development that was included in it and all of the expansion of backstory and everything, I feel like one part where it was kind of lacking was in Superman post-resurrection. Like, we get scenes with him and Lois Lane, which is great, and that's great character stuff, and like that's important and everything, but I kind of wish that, like, there are moments throughout the movie where it's, members of the Justice League talking to each other, like Aquaman talking to the Flash about Wonder Woman wanting.
You wanted Superman interactions with the Justice League.
Like something post their big fight, which I still think is one of the standouts of the movie.
So, I agree. The counter to that would be that was always going to be a thing in the future movies.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
So, while the first Justice League is the team coming together for the goal of getting Superman back into the mix, we were going to get those interactions later on. Okay. It just didn't come because of, what happened. Yeah. So, like, I think that would have been something that you would have gotten, but that was going to be the tease for, the next the next either Superman movie or the Justice League movie. So that makes sense. I'm sure it was the plan. Yeah. And when Zack Snyder was filming the movie, that was still in the plan. So there's not that need, in my opinion, to have those interactions yet. Yeah. So, Justice League 2 comes together with Superman part of the team, if not leading the team, and having these interactions and butting heads with Bruce, joking around with Flash. So. Right.
Yeah, and that makes sense. It's just something that I felt was lacking in this, in context of having it be, maybe the only Justice League we get of this universe. Right. But I will say that there are a couple of things that I remember fondly, for the most part, from the theatrical cut that is missing. So I presume that they were just Joss Whedon's thing. So there's the scene where, and this might have been in the Snyder cut, I don't think it was, but where Aquaman is sitting on the rope, the lasso.
It was not, and I'm okay with it being gone.
My memory of it was that it was pretty good, and it was funny in that Joss Whedon one, but since this is like solely a Zack Snyder thing, like I don't think that
it would not have fit that tone.
Yeah, that level of levity would not have fit the tone. There is good levity between Aquaman and the Flash, independently and together, and that strikes a better tone, because it's not like this laugh out loud kind of like showstopper, like, oh, he's sitting on the lasso. It's like there's no to bring it back to MCU and Joss Whedon. There's no Hulk punching Thor and everything.
Or I think we'll have that drink now. Like like that would fit in the MCU. It doesn't fit in this tone. Yeah. Like, sure, it's kind of a cute quip, but I don't know.
But it's such a darker story that I don't think quips work at all.
No, well, and if there's going to be quips, it feels more natural to come from Flash.
Yeah.
So, and I thought they did a good job of
Me too.
Incorporating the little tidbits of humor in there too. Like they kept the part where they're up on the rooftop with Gordon, and he's like, "Oh, they just disappeared. That was rude."
That's rude.
I thought that's funny.
Yeah.
You know, that's a good little laugh. I like
Right.
that, but I don't need a soliloquy from Aquaman sitting on the rope.
Yeah, exactly. And the other big omission from the theatrical cut was and I'm curious what your thought is on this in the theatrical cut, but the kind of ending stinger where it was Superman and Flash racing.
I remember thinking that's a fun little tidbit. I'm okay. I'm okay with, especially I'm okay with it now, because if you would have put that stinger at the end of the epilogue, it just
absolutely.
That
especially with the context of the epilogue itself.
That'd make no sense. So, as far as that stinger for it's very MCU. It's very Joss Whedon. I didn't hate it at the time, and I don't necessarily hate that interaction now, but that's not something that would have fit the tone at the end of this movie. Now, if that were something that you opened Justice League 2 with, I think that could be kind of fun. Yeah. Like it starts off with Superman and Flash having this little race. I think that'd be a fun little intro back to the team. And
then we get another flashback of Bruce Wayne's parents dying. I really hope that the Batman does not have that.
It's not. They've already said that there's not going to be an origin.
Sweet.
Prologues. So yes,
nice.
Yeah, I think we all are well aware of why Batman is Batman.
Yes.
But you know the other Joss Whedon thing that got scrapped, and thank God it did, was that Ukrainian family thing.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. Yeah, because Flash takes
they push the car, and Flash is pushing the car, thinks he's doing a good job, and you see Superman holding an apartment building, smiling.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that whole family, that family made no sense. Like, I remember them introducing this weird family. I guess not weird family, just this Eastern European family that is in this desolate wasteland for some reason. They're not farming because it's goddamn Chernobyl. And then I forget what they call the bug guys.
Oh yeah, the bug guys.
Yeah, they come and they hold them hostage for reasons. I guess it's like there couldn't be any stakes for Joss Whedon unless there was a family there.
Oh God.
And so thank God that got scrapped.
It's funny because I completely forgot about that, but I do remember when I was watching the Snyder Cut and Flash is running back to break the speed of light or whatever and reversing it so that he can
time travel so they can give
time travel. I remember thinking oh, this is like an evacuation scene or something, and then it kind of went away from my head because that was much better. I don't remember if that's how it played out in the theatrical version.
No, so in the theatrical version there's no the mother boxes converge and then Flash has to reverse time to rectify that. I think that was going to be set up for the Flash movie, for the Flashpoint.
Oh, yeah.
The ramifications of him turning time back.
Right.
And so, obviously, when Joss Whedon got his grubby little hands on the cut, that got nixed. Ugh. So, that part wasn't part of the original cut, but I loved it. Because it's I don't read the Flash except for when he's in crossover scenario stuff. Yeah. But it's pretty well known that Flash is somebody that can manipulate time with his speed, and that's where the Flashpoint storyline comes from. So I like that setup to what could have been or might still be, because the Flash movie is still being planned.
That's good.
Minus Billy Crudup, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That is so. I've actually read kind of a considerable amount of Flash. Of the DC stuff, I've read a fair amount of the Flash and Batman.
Okay.
And the Flash is a lot of fun.
I'm sure he is.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And I've got to say, Ezra Miller does a much better job in this than he did in The Stand. miniseries. Like, I don't know what the fuck
Wasn't
he was
that
doing
recent?
in that.
Was that recent?
Yeah. Back in December.
Okay.
Like he plays a pyromaniac character, and like I don't know what the fuck he was doing.
I've typically liked Ezra Miller and the things
me
I've
too.
seen him in. Obviously, The Flash, I think he's fun.
I was gonna be that video of him choking out a fan.
Is that what?
Yeah, it was something like, I don't remember the context, but I saw a tweet where someone was like, let's not forget that he choked out a fan or something.
What was the fan doing? Was he being overly aggressive? Or? I have a hard time believing anyone would just walk up to a fan like, haha,
yeah,
this will help my career.
I don't remember the context, but
first of all, I don't see Ezra Miller. He's not a very imposing person.
Right. Well, Ezra Miller appears to have choked a woman at a bar in
that's bad.
Reykjavik, Iceland, in a video that surfaced online late Sunday night. This is back in 2020. Oh, April 2020. Wow.
Eesh.
Huh. Despite confusion online over whether the video was a joke, with memes already emerging on Twitter where Miller's name has been trending, a source at the establishment has confirmed to Variety that this was a serious altercation at the bar and that the man whom they identify as Miller was escorted off the premises. The 7-second video shows a man saying, "Oh, you want to fight? That's what you want to do," to a young woman who appears to be jokingly preparing herself for a fight and is smiling. Miller then grabs the girl by the throat and throws her to the ground. At this point, the person filming says, "Whoa, bro," and stops shooting, with the footage ending abruptly.
Eesh.
Yeah.
People get canceled for that sort of thing.
I know.
And rightfully so. You don't.
Yeah.
That ain't good.
Yeah, it sounds like it was intended to be like a joking thing, and then he took it too far. Maybe he entered the Speed Force and didn't know.
Bet he wishes he could run that one back.
Right? Yeah, so I don't know. I'll put a link in the show notes.
anything about that.
Yeah. And again, I mean, that was April 2020, so
COVID.
A lot of stuff kind of in the news, so
Like what?
yeah. Like COVID and I don't know, episode 309 of the Obsessive Viewer Problem. I don't fucking know. But yeah, so anyway, so he's canceled, but yeah, I really liked his that moment when he's reversing time and everything, when he says he's talking to his dad and he's saying I was one of the good ones or something, or I choked a woman out or something like that.
Live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Right. I will say, one of the kind of distracting. How did you feel about the visuals of the Flash and in the Speed Force and that?
So I'm probably going to be in the minority on this, but I think the representation of his speed abilities is my favorite of the superheroes we've seen with that power so far.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I think it's definitely better than Avengers: Age of Ultron. Not dissonant, because I think it's decent. It's just not all that impressive.
Yeah.
With was Evan Peters? Evan Peters as Quicksilver in the X-Men series.
Yeah.
His specific, he's got those two specific scenes that are fantastic.
Right.
But that's it. Other than that, it's just kind of like a generic speed.
Yeah.
So I really like the interpretation of the Speed Force and the manipulation of the Speed Force. So the lightning that coincides with that, that makes sense because he's the Flash.
Yeah,
and I know you hate on the slow motion, but I think that really
it works in that context.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
In this context, I think it really works because it's a really good way to showcase the speed of which he is working and the speed of the other things are going on around him.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts, and it was in the original theatrical cut, is when Superman's just been resurrected and Flash is running around him and he sees Superman look at him. Love that.
The panic on Ezra Miller's face, and when they fight and he's dodging the punches and everything.
Oh, it's beautiful.
That could be my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, it's
overall.
good.
It's really good. But I think when they do the Speed Force thing, it's chaotic as it should be, and it's just kind of I think it's just a little too it's overstimulating, I think, for me. But I mean, I appreciate that they included that and everything to that level.
The extra scene and I don't know I don't read the Flash, so I don't know his girlfriend's name, but with the car accident, that was incredible. That was such a good scene.
I don't know if that was supposed to be his girlfriend or not.
She's cast in the Flash movie.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Nice. That was great. I love that. I love the way that he. First of all, on the surface, it's a little creepy when he just kind of
A little bit, sure.
a little creepy. But I do like the.
But
extra
he's
care.
awkward. He's awkward.
Yeah.
So.
But I do like the extra care that he does, like wrapping her arms around her and everything, because like I'm like sitting there thinking like, yeah, because he's in the Speed Force and anything he does could like break her fucking neck, like choking her and pulling her to the ground. But that was, and it was kind of. It was kind of hokey to me, the whole like, oh, the truck driver dropping the burger, like that felt like a cheesy comic book thing.
Okay, real world experience. I will say this: that's how crashes happen.
It does.
I had a guy T-bone me in an intersection when I was at work once because he dropped his phone on the ground.
Ugh.
And he even said, "I saw your lights and heard your siren, but I had to get my phone." So that shit happens. Like that's why accidents happen.
It does, but also like I don't know, like the sesame seed dropping, like that's just kind of silly. And I think that I get it that happens and everything, and like it's true to life and everything. But I think the introduction of him dropping the burger and then reaching down, like there's way too much time, even with the slowed down time for Speed Force and Zack Snyder, to have him reaching down. It's like, it's way too like, oh my, it's like infomercial, like, oh my God.
I kind of see that.
Yeah. But the actual effect of him saving her and everything was really great. And like, I was wondering like, what the fuck is he doing with the hot dog? And then that pays off when he's in the room. Really, really good. And yeah, so yeah. Aquaman. We're both fans of Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of his portrayal of Aquaman, and
Me too.
not just in Justice League. I'm a big defender of the Aquaman movie. I love that movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was a lot of campy fun. And
When we talked last week and I said like, oh yeah, it's it's Lion King, or no, it's Black Panther Underwater, and you said that's Lion King,
Yeah.
and everything. I should have said, that's
Hamlet.
That's just Hamlet and everything. So again, there are 7 plots that exist.
He was great in this movie again too. He's a really imposing figure. His Jason Momoa in the fight scenes are fantastic. For some reason, I really liked his interactions with Steppenwolf during the fights too.
Yeah,
it just felt really intense.
That him with the trident in the back. When he
fucking
great. Awesome, like that, and then
the chop,
the literal overkill
Yep.
of Wonder Woman slicing his head off, just holy shit.
The one thing I would have added from just a standpoint of maybe I'm also a needer of bloodlust.
Sure,
I think it would have been better had Wonder Woman off the head, it fell to the ground, and then like Batman came over and kicked it through the portal.
Right.
I would have enjoyed that.
That would have been cool. That would have been cool.
But no, like the scenes with Aquaman are great. I think it's funny because some of the scenes that they added kind of have to retcon a little bit of the Aquaman movie.
Oh yeah,
because they make the comment with he's talking to Mira and he said that he was just dropped off on the doorstep and never met his mother. If you've seen the Aquaman movie, that's not how it's portrayed in the movie. Mira's got an accent now.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Yeah, and I got 2 schools of thoughts on the way they do the speaking underwater. In Aquaman the movie, they talk like normal underwater, but in this they make it so you have to be in the bubble. If not, you're talking fish speak. I assume that's like fish speak.
Sure.
So I appreciate Zack Snyder going the extra effort for kind of like the comic book authenticity, but I would have been annoyed if the Aquaman movie had that fish speak throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, I get that for sure.
So thank you, James Wan, for making that creative decision.
Yes. I need to watch Aquaman again. That's such a fun movie.
It is, man. It's long, it's another long one, but it's fun.
Yeah,
I had a blast with that movie.
Oh yeah.
It's just a shame that what's her nut is a psycho.
Amber Heard.
Amber Heard.
Yeah.
That's a
that's a whole thing.
yeah. That is.
I'd let her shit in my bed though. I would say.
I mean, I wouldn't be happy about it.
Right. I have a washer and dryer in my apartment. I'm good.
But I like the extra scenes with Volko. I thought I thought he looked like kind of badass. Like
who?
Volko.
Volko.
Yeah, he's the guy that what's the actor's name? It's Aquaman's mentor.
Oh, Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe.
Oh, okay,
yeah. He looked great in the he had a good look for Aquaman the movie too. But something about his look in this, maybe because he had his hair down, just kind of looked a little bit more ferocious. But
Right.
I really like that the interaction with him too. So I like bringing him back into it.
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten that he was in Aquaman because it's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah.
So when I saw his name in the credits, I was like, oh, they added Willem Dafoe. I was like, oh no, wait, he's established in the DCEU. But yeah, Aquaman was great. Flash was great.
And I love the introduction of Aquaman in the movie too, and it was in the theatrical
Right.
cut with the
Don't count on it, Batman.
I also they cut the line, and I liked the line of "Heard you talk to fish." I don't know,
yeah.
I don't know why I like.
You know,
I think it's a fun line.
I liked that too in the original, and I mean it was even a big part of the marketing. I think in
It
the
was,
first trailer.
yeah.
I am glad that they kept the line where Barry Allen asks him, "What's your superpower?" He's like, "I'm rich."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a great line. So yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I guess that line caught some flack from people, but I don't know. I thought it was fun. I hear you talk to fish.
Oh, here you talk to fish.
Yeah.
Wow. Why?
Yeah, I don't know. It was enough so that Snyder cut it from this one,
Jeez.
but regardless, I liked it. I was sorry to see it go.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Let's talk epilogue and the Joker scene. He didn't have the "We live in a society" line.
No,
the final cut.
So that line was improv by Jared Leto during the filming of it.
Okay.
And they thought it would be fun for marketing, but Zack Snyder didn't. He didn't want it in the final cut because it is taken from the Joker meme.
Okay.
So
that makes me feel like I actually I have like a little bit more respect for Snyder because of that.
yeah. So I think it was a fun marketing ploy, but I
Okay.
agree with him cutting it from the movie.
Yeah.
So, but that interaction is probably the best Batman Joker filmed interaction in my opinion.
It's
Hand in hand with Heath Ledger, Christian Bale in the jail scene.
Oh, yeah. I would say for me, it doesn't attain that level, obviously. But I would say, the Joker talking to a little kid, Batman and Joker. But no, that scene, when I was watching it, I've had this idea in my head, or this kind of, I haven't seen Suicide Squad since I saw it the one time.
I won't.
Yeah, and I won't either. I'm very much looking forward to what's his nuts? The Suicide Squad. What is his name?
Are you talking about the director?
James Gunn.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I don't think I'll ever see the first Suicide Squad. But when Jared Leto popped up,
Side note, there is a big push to get a David Ayer cut of Suicide Squad.
And apparently
it got shot down quick by Warner.
Yeah,
WB was like, nope.
They were like, no, that's not going to happen.
I think they've had enough egg on their face over this that they don't want it
probably.
Again, so
yeah. But I realized when Jared Leto popped up, in my head, I think kind of subconsciously, I was like, okay, here we go, the Joker scene. Fucking Jared Leto.
Oh, you weren't looking forward to it?
I wasn't, because and I realized after he started performing on it, I was like, yeah, the only real context I have for Jared Leto's Joker is Suicide Squad,
yeah.
which is, by all accounts, in my opinion, a complete garbage dumpster fire of a movie.
Oh, it's the second worst DCEU film.
Oh yeah. What's the first one?
Wonder Woman 84.
Oh really? I still haven't seen it.
It's bad. It's bad.
Okay. But I mean, his performance was really good in this scene.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
It was that perfect Joker underhanded talk, poking the bear in just the right spots.
And Batfleck was great also.
He's my favorite Batman. He is. I love Ben Affleck as Batman. And I love that sense of just rage towards this character.
Like you better
and
you better be very careful with what you say next.
And Jared Leto, they sound like Yoda there.
Oh yeah,
And,
very better. Will you next? Whatever.
But Jared Leto's like has a line that couldn't be more true throughout the Batman Joker process of I'm your best friend.
Yeah.
Like yes, you are.
Yeah.
Like that is 100% accurate.
Oh yeah. And then when he pokes him even more, and then Batman's like, "That's not careful. Careful, that is not."
Yeah. But I love the throwback.
Just so great.
I don't want to say it's a throwaway line, but him talking about Harley dying in his arms and he's going to avenge Harley's death.
Yeah.
So in the comic books, there's an interaction between Batman and Harley Quinn a lot that is kind of at times enemies, but also frenemies. Like Harley, in this point in the comic books, Harley's made a conscious decision to rid herself of Joker and trying to do good and be part of Batman's kind of philosophy. So
and get an egg sandwich.
yeah, that egg sandwich looked amazing.
It did, and I really liked Birds of Prey.
Oh yeah, it was fun.
Yeah,
it was
so
a lot
much
of fun. Yeah, it was a good movie.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that, and I don't want to take all the focus away from the prologue towards the Batman Joker interaction, but let me just say that it was, to me, the perfect Joker Batman interaction.
Nice.
Now the rest of the nightmare scene was great too. I like seeing Deadshot. Slade Wilson.
Yeah.
I liked him showing up too. It's like we don't know why he's teaming up with
Right.
Batman, but he apparently is.
And it's a different Flash also.
Was it?
Yeah, it was not Ezra Miller.
Was it not Ezra Miller?
No, like it was a dude with a mustache. Like he looks incredibly different.
I'd have to go back and look at it. I guess I just didn't pick up on it. I, as much as I don't like the person, but having Mira in there too,
Yeah.
it was cool.
Yeah.
And, Cyborg's back too. So
Right. Oh yeah.
and I love how imposing Superman is when he lands.
Yeah.
right
Oh
there.
my God. That was such a great moment for me. I thought that was just really cool, and like the little bits and pieces of just backstory in there, like like Joker saying like you sent like you made the mistake of sending a boy wonder instead of like a man or something like that, and then when Mira says like, well, he's going to pay for what he did to Arthur, and she has the trident and stuff, and then all that's just like, I mean, that's just like whetting my appetite for this. Like, I just want to see like that expanded. Yeah,
It's a shame.
yeah.
It's a shame.
And then what did you think of the epilogue with Martian Manhunter?
Again, I don't know a lot about Martian Manhunter, but it was a cool ending to it. Like, things are progressing.
Right.
It's gonna continue on from here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it won't. But
Right.
I like the concept of Martian Manhunter being there throughout the entire time. He was. They've confirmed that he was in fact the Colonel back in Man of Steel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
Okay.
he was all because that character was also in Batman v Superman. At this time, he was. I think he was like a senator or state representative in that movie.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I like how he's been behind the scene. Martian Manhunter's been behind the scenes throughout the entire process too, and now he's like, it's time to get
Right.
in on the action type of deal. So.
Now I got to join the club.
Right or the league.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's the changing of the Lex Luthor scene too.
Yeah, because in the theatrical, I might be conflating that with the ending of Batman v Superman, because I remember him being in the cell.
So that's Batman v Superman.
Okay,
so
yeah.
it's the
Are
same.
you talking about the boat scene?
The boat scene.
Okay.
So it's the same scene. The dialogue's changed.
Okay.
So in the theatrical cut, he's inviting Slade Wilson to be part of the Legion of Doom.
That's right.
Because he makes a comment of a League of Their Own.
Right.
And this one, they're setting up what was going to be the Batman Ben Affleck directorial debut.
That's right.
It was because Slade Wilson was going to be the
villain.
antagonist in that. And so that was setting that up. He's like, he's Bruce Wayne. And so he's like, okay.
That's a much better ending
Right.
than the theatrical. Yeah, man. Damn.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Maybe they'll have something. I don't know.
My hopes. You know what? I got the Snyder Cut and to expect anything more, I think would just be foolish.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And you know, they've talked to Zack Snyder's done a couple of interviews since they've released it, and he said, "Hey, look, you know, we'll cross the bridge if they ever approach me about it, but I've had no inclination that that's the route they're going to take."
Oh,
he
yeah.
goes, they've made it clear they're moving on, and he goes, I hope them the best, but it's
and to be, I mean, it's not that hard of a thing. It's not that bad for me because I have some issues with Zack Snyder as a whole, but also, I mean, the Batman looks amazing.
It does. The Batman does look amazing, but I'm telling you what, the Batman directed by Ben Affleck had me just all geeked out.
Yeah.
They were going. The way they were going to say it, they were really going to put the test to the greatest detective in the world.
And that's the thing that makes me excited for the Batman, because I think Matt Reeves said that also.
Yeah, I think that's the same process. But
Yeah.
I wanted this aged Batman who's now reformed a bit to have that test put to him again with Slade Wilson, and
with Ben Affleck directing, that would have been really cool.
I agree. It's a shame. I think part of the problem there with and I wish him all the best, but I think his alcoholism kind of got in the way of a lot of that. I think a lot of talk was made about the rigors of doing a superhero movie kind of got to him, and it's probably not just the physical rigors, but that's a process. Like there's reshoots upon reshoots,
right.
and so and Ben Affleck's not a young man anymore.
No,
I mean,
and also, I mean, also the post process of that, like the marketing, I assume that there's got to be much more involved to like junkets and everything than it is for like.
Well, you could even watch.
Movie.
You could watch Ben Affleck in the junkets for Batman v Superman. Right. You just really didn't
the
want to be
meme-ified
there.
thing of the zoom in on his face. Yeah.
So I get it, and I'm sad because I love his Batman. I would love to have seen him have his own Batman movie. But
when you say that he's your favorite Batman, does that include Kevin Conroy?
Oh man, I think
that's a gotcha question.
I think that's two different. I think you have to look at it two different ways, because Kevin Conroy is a voice actor solely, at least when it comes to Batman. So
that's fair.
I think. Well, I don't think that's I think that's a false equivalent, really.
Okay.
Because there's so much about Ben Affleck, his being imposed, his physicality, and it's not just Ben with this, but Zack Snyder directing how brutal his fight sequences were.
Yeah,
I love that.
He's the CrossFit Batman.
Yeah, he is the CrossFit Batman. So Kevin Conroy is a legend, and there'll never be a voice actor that can probably do Batman better than him. But
did you not hear my impression earlier?
No.
In this episode?
Well, I didn't want to give you too big of a head.
Well,
I'll
fucking kill you, Joker.
No, two different things.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll get you with a gotcha question at some point.
No, it's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a fair question.
Thank you. Kevin, if you're listening, we love you. And that reminds me, it's funny. I was about to say like, oh, I'm so excited that Batman the Animated Series is on HBO Max, but I have the Blu-ray. And even that, I even have like the digital copy from the Blu-ray on my Vudu account, and I'm like, oh, it's on HBO Max. I'm like, okay, it's the age we live in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to have it on HBO Max. So
nice.
Because I do not own the Blu-rays.
Interesting.
Yep, indeed.
Yeah. Yep.
Indeed.
So have we effectively talked out Zack Snyder's Justice League? Is there anything else you want to bring up, or any points that we did not make?
We talked about Martian Manhunter. I think we could go. We don't need to, but I just like to reiterate. Darkseid would have been a great imposing bad guy for the next Justice League, and I loved his addition. I would have loved to have seen it come to fruition for the next films, but
yeah, it would have been cool.
Yep.
But
what can you do?
Yeah,
I would say the experience, and I never thought I'd be able to see this movie. Like when the hashtag of releases Snyder Cut came out, I was like, you know what? awesome sentiment. I'm 100% behind it. Will never happen.
Yeah.
And then talk came from Ray Fisher. And then talk came from Jason Momoa. Even Ben Affleck got into the release of Snyder. And, of course, Henry Cavill, who is just the most jacked nerd in the history of nerds. So when the push came from the cast, I was like, yeah, maybe it'll happen. And then it did happen, and I couldn't be more satisfied with the product. But it leaves me saying that it's a very bittersweet process because while I got to see what, in my opinion, was an amazing Justice League film, it's bitter because it shows what could have been, just never will be. Like, I will never have that Ben Affleck Batman solo movie. I will never have the Justice League fight Darkseid. I'll never have them fight on Apocalypse. I'll never see any of the stuff that was going to be in the plans.
Yeah.
Now, could they show it in a different way? I think ideally the best process, in my opinion, would be to have Zack Snyder write out the screenplay and turn it into a comic book or graphic novel.
Oh, that would be neat.
I think I would be all for that. We're still getting the Flash movie that's going to showcase Flashpoint, although that's starting to get a little shaky now too because Billy Crudup has backed out.
Right.
And now today Michael Keaton made a statement, not officially backing out, but saying like, I don't know how this is going. So
Who is he going to play again?
he's going to play alternate universe Batman.
That's right. Oh my God, I forgot about that. Man. Okay.
Kevin Conroy, I think, is casting it too.
God damn.
So I don't know how that's shaping up, and don't quote me on this, but I think Ben Affleck was going to make an appearance too. I'm not 100% sure, but the Flash movie is still on schedule to start. I don't know where it's going to be at, or I don't know how it's going to.
So, say for sake of argument that this Flash movie happens and Kevin Conroy does play live action, will that change your answer?
I would have a hard time believing that it would change my answer because Kevin Conroy is a very old individual and probably will not be that imposing of a Batman.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, technically that would be okay, of all the live action of all the Batmen, that criteria would be, he's just a voice actor, but no, he would actually be live action.
And I don't think that he would be better than Ben Affleck.
Okay, well,
maybe Kevin Conroy 30 years ago.
Yeah, I agree. Have you seen that video of him reading lines as Batman from The Dark Knight?
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah, it's so good. So good.
So awesome. Really cool. So
yep.
Okay, should we wrap up?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, that's our review of Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Snyder Cut, currently on HBO Max. Let us know what you guys thought of it and everything.
If I may give a suggestion,
Yes.
watching it in parts is a great idea.
I will have to agree with you there because I watched the first 4 parts and then went back like a couple of days later today and watched 5 through whatever.
I'd be curious what my thought would be if I sat through 4 hours of that in the movie theater.
Yeah. Oh God, in a movie theater.
Yeah.
At this point, I'll sit through 4 hours of Two Girls, One Cup in a movie theater.
Well, you haven't?
No, I haven't.
You're not going to the right theaters.
Right.
No, 4 hours in a movie theater is a long time. That's coming from a guy that once sat in 14 hours in the movie theater.
Oh, was that for the
Avengers?
Avengers, yeah. Yeah. Well, as someone who has gone to film festivals and stuff and spent like whole days in movie theaters, like I get that, but also that's in like 2-hour chunks.
Right.
Mostly like 90-minute chunks.
They do good, and Zack Snyder's intent is for this to be viewed through, start to finish, but they pick really good break points for the parts. So
yeah, I was very surprised at the length of them too. Like the first chapter is like 30 minutes.
Well, I mean, it's still only a 4-hour movie broken up in 7 parts. So
yeah, but I mean, it's nice that it is those chapters are tailored to the story rather than runtime.
Yeah.
So yeah. So all right. Well, that's our review, and I don't really have anything for potpourri or anything, and I don't know if you want to do potpourri or not.
If you don't have anything.
Okay. Yeah, I got nothing. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and close out the episode. Thank you guys so much for listening, and Fekkes, thank you for joining me for this review of Zack Snyder's Justice League, and
thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. And I don't know what we're coming up with next time on the podcast, but let us know what you thought of Zack Snyder's Justice League. And thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time. And now, here's a short clip from our Patreon exclusive RSS feed. To hear the full clip and more exclusive Patreon content, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and become a patron at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Thank you and enjoy. Instead of watching it during work or whatever. So, my voice just cracked. That's great. Anyway, so I watched the first episode. I don't have the title or anything. It just said episode 1, so I don't know what the title is going to be when it releases. But this was one of those shows that I was very much looking forward to. Out of the kind of crop of Marvel Cinematic Universe on Disney Plus and like the new stuff that was coming out and everything, this was the thing that interested me the most because I really love Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan. Their back and forth in, I think it was the Civil War, was a lot of fun. And I really, really was so taken with the Super Bowl trailer for this show. And I was just so amped for it. And I'm very happy to say that I really enjoyed this first episode. Now, I'm going to be spoiling it. So if you haven't watched the first episode of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, come back and listen to it when you watch it. This first episode,
The Obsessive Viewer podcast is edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. For a full archive of our episodes, go to ObsessiveViewer.com/OV archive. You can also like our Facebook page and join the OV Facebook group at facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer, and follow us on Twitter at ObsessiveViewer and at ObsessiveTiny, and follow our recurring co-hosts at I am Mike White, that's me, at R.A. Fekkes, and at Burger_Lurker. If you enjoy the show, please take a couple minutes to leave us a rating and a quick review on Apple Podcasts. This is the easiest way to support what we do, and all it costs is a little bit of your time. If you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can make a PayPal donation at obsessiveviewer.com/donate, or support us on Patreon for recurring donations and access to commentary tracks and B-roll audio recorded exclusively for patrons at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Every donation goes toward paying the fees to keep the podcast running and is greatly appreciated. For official Obsessive Viewer merch, including shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more, visit our TeePublic store. You can find a link to the store in the show notes of this episode and at obsessiveviewer.com/donate. Or you can simply search for Obsessive Viewer at teepublic.com, T-E-E, public.com. For information about our annual live event showcasing short horror films from local filmmakers, check out shocktoberInIrvington.com. And for an archive of all our events, as well as news about potential future events, head over to obsessiveviewer.com/live. For more podcast content, you can find Anthology, Matt's solo podcast covering The Twilight Zone and other classic and contemporary science fiction anthology TV shows at anthologypod.com and on Twitter at OVAnthologyPod. You can also find Tower Junkies, a podcast where Matt and Tiny share their love of all things Stephen King and his magnum opus, the Dark Tower series, at towerjunkiespod.com and at towerjunkiespod on Twitter. And finally, check out The Secular Perspective, Tiny's side project podcast, which tackles current events and life's big questions from the perspective of secular hosts Chad and Amanda at thesecularperspective.com. The theme music for The Obsessive Viewer comes courtesy of the band Loudlike from their EP Mistakes We Must Make. Additional bumper music is provided courtesy of As Good As It Gets, which can be found at facebook.com/asgoodasitgetsband. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Kitty!